Hello, everyone. We are live. Hopefully, you're seeing me horizontally. I couldn't get my screen to turn before. Hopefully, I'm not sideways. Let's see. Okay, I'm checking it out on my own. So let's make it good adjustment so you can see my pretty candle because that's so important. So, hello. How is everyone today? Today is St. Joseph's Day. Now, if you're not Italian, that might not mean anything to you. But in my world, I'm half Irish and I'm half Italian. And St. Patty's Day, obviously, is always March 17th. And then March 19th is St. Joseph's Day, and it's something that Italians celebrate. And in Italy, it's actually Father's Day because St. Joseph was the father of Jesus. And St. Joseph was my mother's favorite saint. So what we used to do when I was a kid, well, when I was a teenager, I guess, and older, is my father's sister used to, oh, hello, Maestro, thank you for joining me live. My father's sister used to invite everyone over for St. Joseph's Day, and she would make St. Joseph's pie, and she would make pizza. And she made the best pizza, oh my God. But St. Joseph's pie was an odd thing. I hated it when I was a kid, and I kind of like it now. My dad used to like it because, well, my dad can eat anything. Well, he used to be able to eat anything. But it's an onion pie, so it's. I've looked for recipes online because it's kind of lost to us now that all of my older relatives like that have passed on. But I can't find the exact recipe that she used to make, but she kind of. I see online lots of things that people do for St. Joseph's Day, especially desserts. And some places do onion pie, but they do it like a pie, like a round pie. She didn't do that. She sort of made it like a stromboli to where she would have pizza dough and then she would have all these caramelized onions and then she would roll it up and cook it that way. But there were different things that she would add to it. So they were all onion pies, but then some would have anchovies, some would have black olives, some would have raisins. So when you're a kid, you're just like, this is weird. Why am I having an onion pie instead of an apple pie or a stromboli with tomato sauce? Didn't have any tomato sauce, no cheese. It was a really odd thing, but I think I got to like it as I got older, as long as it didn't have the anchovies. I think now that I'm older and I can appreciate anchovies, I would probably like all of them. So let me know if you are Italian and you're watching this, if your family did anything similar to that on St. Joseph's Day, because I thought it was interesting. So when we were kids, we used to just go for the pizza, because she used to make a bunch of little homemade pizzas too, and they were just out of this world. So let's see what I have for you today. Tomorrow is the first day of spring. Can you believe that? So quickly. It's on the 20th this year instead of the 21st. So I have my Spring Clean Your Diet coming up. I'll talk about that later. But I wanted to talk first about, I've been reading some studies about the Mediterranean diet as always, and I wanted to share them with you. So on our last show, we talked about the Mediterranean diet and if it can help prevent cognitive decline. So I was reading further about that. There's another study that I was reading about the MIND diet, MIND, all in caps. Now, the MIND diet is a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. The DASH diet is something that specifically targets lowering your blood pressure. And the Mediterranean diet, of course, is for overall health. So the MIND diet is, because of the blood pressure and the healthy way that we eat on the Mediterranean diet, it also is good for the brain, and it targets specifically the brain. And I wanted to go into some of the specifics about that. I might get a little visitor. Scarlett is near me. Hello, Devon Foster. Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining me live. So we're talking about the MIND diet and how it can help with brain function. So I'm going to look at my notes here because I don't want to get anything wrong because I'm not a doctor and I wrote down a bunch of notes here. So as you know, as we talked about on our last in our last show, that the Mediterranean diet can help prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. The MIND diet is very, very similar to the Mediterranean diet, but has some very specific things that it pulls out as highly beneficial. So I'm going to go through some of those with you. The one is, it's the Mediterranean diet, and it also specifies to eat lots and lots of vegetables. But they specifically call out green leafy vegetables, and that you should have at least 6 servings of them per week. Now, I'm always telling people to eat at least 5 to 10 vegetables a day. And the vegetables, like I said last week, vegetables serving sizes are small. So like if you think of the palm of your hand, whatever you can hold in the palm of your hand is really like a serving size. So it's not like you have to eat massive quantities of vegetables. But if if you make a salad and you have lettuce and you add some spinach, you're getting your leafy green, and maybe you add cucumber and carrots and radishes and tomatoes. And think of all the servings of vegetables you're having in that one meal. So servings don't have to be, when I say 10 servings a day, people get a little panicky, but it's really not that hard. So dark leafy greens are really good for you. I'm always telling people to add dark leafy greens anyway. So I guess I sort of naturally do the Mind Diet. The next thing is berries, because the antioxidants that are in berries are very good for brain function. Now, in spring, berries are coming into their season. So you're going to start seeing strawberries and blueberries and raspberries and all kinds of berries. So make a special effort to eat some more berries. Nuts, which is part of the Mediterranean diet. Olive oil, fish and poultry, legumes, whole grains. And it says no more than 1 glass of red or white wine per day. Now, usually the Mediterranean diet just specifies red wine. The Mind Diet says red or white, but only 1 glass per day. So really cut back on the alcohol if you can. And then it gives you some foods to avoid. So it says to avoid butter and margarine. Now, on the Mediterranean diet, usually you use olive oil for everything anyway. I do eat a little bit of butter now and then, but the Mind Diet says to avoid butter and margarine, and I usually tell people don't eat margarine anyway because it's just sort of like a butter substitute. Cheese, they say to avoid cheese. That could be a really tough one for people because I am a cheeseaholic. Red meat, they say to avoid red meat. Now, in the Mediterranean diet, you can eat a little bit of red meat, but usually you shouldn't be eating it more than once or twice a month. Probably most Americans eat a lot more than that. I know that I do. And then sugary processed desserts, which, is just natural. And then fried foods. So I've been trying to bake everything practically that I used to fry. Like if you watch my latest food video, I made a pepper cutlets, which were similar to chicken cutlets, but I was using bell peppers and poblano peppers to do it. And now, even when I make chicken cutlet, I just bake them now. Even when I make meatballs now, I bake them instead of frying them. There's so many things that you can bake instead of frying, and they come out just as good. So try to avoid the fried foods as well. So they went on to give some examples of how you can incorporate these things into your diet. So they were saying, especially the leafy greens, that's really the big one. So they were saying just saute some greens with your eggs in the morning if you're going to eat eggs for breakfast. That's one easy way. Or to add a handful of spinach to a smoothie if you're going to make a smoothie. Or add it to your salad, or have a green salad for lunch, like an entree kind of salad, not a small one. And then when you're making dinner, maybe have a side salad. And to add greens to your sandwiches and to wraps and even tacos. And to add hearty greens like kale or, like baby kale, they hold up pretty well to cooking. So to add them to soups and stews and casseroles. And try a variety of greens. Like try some of the ones you wouldn't normally try, like something like escarole. They recommend it if you make salmon and you're going to put it on a sheet pan, to put some escarole in the sheet pan as well and just bake it in the oven. And that's another way to get some of your greens. So try some of the odd greens like escarole, which kind of like, for me, escarole when I was growing up, I only had escarole if we had maybe Italian wedding soup. It's the only time I've ever seen escarole. But you can use escarole in salads, you can cook it. Maestro says, I found mustard greens and turnip greens wonderful. Oh, they are my favorites. What mustard greens are really good for you, and turnip greens are just so yummy. I used to have a supermarket near me that had them all the time, and lately they haven't had them. They've been redecorating, and they keep saying they're going to get them back in. I really, really miss them. So good for you. Try all those dark leafy greens. So that's the Mind Diet in a nutshell. So if you are worried about cognitive decline and you want to keep your brain healthy as long as you can, that's what that's about. And specifically, what it was saying that it targets is really, it mentioned Alzheimer's, because when they study people who have had Alzheimer's, they find that this sticky kind of plaque forms in their brains, and it can form tangles, and it obstructs your brain cells from communicating with the neurons in your brain. I don't even, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not really sure exactly what all that means, but it doesn't sound good. So this helps to prevent the tangles and helps prevent the sticky plaque from forming in your brain. I'm going to take a sip of water. So I wanted to move on to the next study I was reading about, which is about the keto diet. Now, I know a lot of people are on keto type of diets, and the keto diet is a low carb diet, similar to the Atkins diet, to where you put your body in ketosis by really reducing the amount of carbs that you eat. And it's a high fat, low carb diet. New studies have said that being on a keto type of diet can double your risk for heart disease. And I think that's really significant because I think a lot of people in the United States have started to equate dieting with cutting out carbs. As soon as you're on a diet, I don't know how many times I've had people say to me, "Oh my God, you're eating bread." Like, "Oh my God, you're eating pasta." Like as if it's a sin to eat any kind of carbs. And of course, the Mediterranean diet is not in any way a low carb diet, right? It just targets higher quality carbs. So you're supposed to eat whole grains and, better breads, not the kind of white bread with a million additives that you would get at the supermarket. And you can eat pasta, but you have to cook pasta in a certain way, and you're supposed to eat it in small portions. But it's really significant that I think that the keto diet, the Atkins diet, all those kind of low carb, high fat diets have been shown to really increase your LDL levels, which is the bad cholesterol that we form in our bodies. And that is what leads to all kinds of problems with our cardiovascular health. So these type of diets were really created for people who had diabetes or for people who were morbidly obese and they really needed to lose weight in a quick way because it turns your body into a fat burning machine. So the carbs are what our body runs off of for energy. So when you're reducing the carbs, it has to target the other areas of your body, like the deep fat. So people latched onto that as a way to quickly lose, a few pounds. Because there was always the Atkins diet, I remember, had a 2-week lead-in that was like this extreme version of really low carb, and you could burn some fat right away. And I've tried that in the past, and I have never felt so weak in my life. And the problem with these kind of diets is that as soon as you eat a carb, it's over. It throws you out of the process of ketosis, and you have to start over again. And a lot of times, people can't maintain a diet like that, or they only kind of do it kind of like halfway, like they think they're not eating carbs, but then they'll have like a cookie, they think they won't eat bread, but then they'll have like a piece of cake or something. And they think, oh, well, I'm really reducing my carbs. I'm just cutting out bread. And then it doesn't work at all. Or when you do stop doing it, you kind of gain a lot more weight back than you had originally started with. So I always tell people, just try the Mediterranean diet. It's just a natural way of eating. You can eat carbs. It's all about eating them in moderation and eating high quality versions of carbs instead of like the cheap processed stuff like cereal bars and things that you would get in the supermarket. You're just eating real whole grains, like have oatmeal for breakfast or have farro with dinner. Like try to explore some of the new types of, or the old ancient grains, new to us kind of grains, like things like farro and buckwheat and things like that we don't really cook with anymore. I've tried a lot of them and they taste really good and they're really easy to make. Usually you just kind of boil them or steam them and you add them as a side dish, or you can toss them in a salad, or add them to soups and things as a thickener, and you're getting some really high quality carbohydrates, which you then need to burn for fuel. So really, that's all that I had to say about the keto diet. That study said that it can double your risk for heart disease. So really be careful about those kind of things. And really just talk to your doctor and see what is suitable for you. Because I'm not a doctor and I don't know you personally. So if you are looking to lose weight or to just eat healthier, talk to your doctor about what is appropriate for you. Because if you have diabetes, maybe you really do have to reduce your carbs. But for anyone who doesn't, the low carb diet isn't really appropriate for them. Take another sip of water because I'm talking a lot. Okay, so I have another article I was reading. You probably saw this one because it made all the major headlines. It was from the World Health Organization, and they just released a warning about how much salt we intake for everyone around the world, not just people in the United States. Now, sodium is an essential nutrient for our body, but too much salt in our bodies can increase heart disease, stroke, and can lead to premature death. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, is recommending globally that we have a target of reducing our sodium intake by 30% by the year 2025. They think it's that serious that we have to do it really quickly. I've really tried to cut down how much salt I cook with and things, but there's a lot of salt hidden in foods that you wouldn't know about, especially if you're buying foods. That's why it's so important to cook at home. Because even when you buy something like if I have a recipe that calls for canned beans, the reason that they tell you to rinse beans when they're coming out of a can before you use them is because they're in kind of a sodium liquid in there to keep them preserved. So you want to rinse all that sodium off before you use it. So if you get a can of white beans or pinto beans or whatever, dump it in a colander, rinse them off with water, and then use them. And then you're reducing the sodium content. I've even noticed that some of the canned tomatoes that I buy that are for making tomato sauce, like crushed tomatoes, some of the companies now are having salt-free versions that come out, and I've been buying them, and I don't taste any difference whatsoever. We get so used to eating a lot of salt that when you start to cut back on it naturally, and you realize that you're tasting the food more than you're tasting the salt, you really get used to it. And then when you eat something that's really salty, it tastes really salty. And it's in things like soy sauce. So if you eat Japanese food or Chinese food, the soy sauce that they use in those dishes, or monosodium glutamate, it's hidden in things like that. So look at the labels on the food, because the WHO is recommending. I'll read you their recommendations actually. So they're recommending that companies reformulate food that they sell with less salt. They're recommending that we establish public food policies to limit salt intake in foods that you find in public institutions like hospitals, schools, nursing homes, places like that. And that we put better labeling on our packaging, and to put it on the front of packaging instead of hidden on the back where it has the sodium count, to actually put it on the front so people can see how much salt. And then they're asking that the governments do mass media campaigns to recommend salt reduction overall. And they're not saying that just for the United States, they're saying that for all over the world. It's kind of a global problem. Salt is, it's really tasty, right? But I even find like the salty snacks, like potato chips, you can buy low salt versions of potato chips, and they taste more potatoey than they taste salty. And sometimes now if I eat like a full salt chip, it really tastes salty, and it just like makes my mouth feel weird. I'm so not used to eating that much salt. So try to cut back on your salt, and join the rest of the world in trying to reduce your salt by 30%. Let's see. I had one more thing for you. I feel like I've been talking for a long time. We're 17 minutes in. So if anybody has any questions about anything that I just mentioned, please let me know. This is our 10th episode of Live from the Dolce Vita Cafe for season 2. And I am going to now take the show on hiatus. I have a paid diet program coming up that I'm going to be doing in the spring, and I really need to concentrate on that. And I wanted to let you know, let me take a sip of water. Excuse me. I wanted to let you know that I also have a free, Maestro says, great season, thanks. Thank you, Maestro, and thank you for joining me live all the time. I really love when people are on here live and they talk to me. So feel free to talk to me on these shows. So I have a paid diet program coming up that you can find more information about on my website. But I also have a free webinar coming up, which I do every year, and it's called Spring Clean Your Diet. I'm going to be doing that in a few weeks. So I will put a link down in the description when we're finished with this video where you can go and you can sign up for information for that. So even if you can't join that program live, if you sign up for the email, I will send you a link to the replay that you can watch it afterwards on your own time. It'll be on Zoom. Maestro says, is your program the same as last spring? It is not. So I've started doing this every year, and then I update it with new things that I know that I learned throughout the year. So the first time I did it on Facebook, back when we used to do Facebook Lives all the time. And then last year I did it as a webinar, and I updated it then. And so this year I'm updating it again with new information. So I'll probably put some information about some of these studies that I've been talking about and different ways that we can, I'm kind of into mindfulness and stuff for this spring. So I'm thinking it's going to have a different vibe. So please join me live for that. I would love to have you there. And if not, just sign up for the email that I will put the link down below, because if you can't come live, like I said, you can always watch the replay. And the replay will be free as well. So I hope to see you there. And I want to thank everyone for joining me throughout the season this time. And hopefully, if you sign up for that link for the Spring Clean Your Diet, I'll also send you some information about the diet program that I have coming up for the spring. Excuse me. In case you're looking to lose weight for the summer. So I will also put a link down below to all the articles that I mentioned today if you want to read more in depth about them. And let's see. What else do I have? Oh, the Spring Clean Your Diet is going to be on Wednesday, April 12th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So, and the diet course is going to begin May 1st. So I think that's all I have for you today. So, in case, let me look in the chat, see if I missed anybody. If you have any questions. And if not, I am going to sign off for the season. I'll try not to stay away as long this time as I did last time. We got hit with the pandemic in between there. So that is a wrap on the season. I hope you enjoyed it. And you can always go to donnadroza.com if you want to follow me throughout the year for more information. So thank you, everyone, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.